companies that are utilizing it to help drive are the ones that are much more transformational and having more success.
Hey, what's up YouTube? Jeremiah Hersey here, and welcome to the last episode in the No to Pro series. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to create a rolling 12-month profit measure. And so the way that a rolling 12-month works is as it progresses to the next day, it's going to drop off that last day, whether at the year level, drop off the last quarter, or the month, whatever level that we're at within the hierarchy. In order to do this, we're going to have to use several different functions, including the most famous one, calculate, to modify the filter context in which we're looking, because we're going to be changing the filter context every time that it associates the next value. So if you want to follow along, there's a link down below in the description to download the PBIX. Let's get started. So here we are where we left off in the last episode. So I'm going to expand this matrix a little bit, and I'll go ahead and go up in my hierarchy up to the year level. And so in this video, I'm also going to introduce variables as well. Variables are a way to simplify the way that your code looks and reads inside of a DAX formula. So let's go ahead and create a new measure. And we're going to call this measure rolling 12 months profit. So the way that our rolling 12-month profit is going to work is we're going to look at 365 days. So if you think about today's May 18th, and as we look at 365 days, if we were to go back to May 18th of last year, that's actually 366 days. So we're going to need to move forward one day or lose one day in the process of creating this profit measure. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use VAR. VAR calls out to a variable. It creates a variable here. And we're going to call this variable the start day. And we're going to set that start day. This is going to be where we're going to begin our rolling 12-month profit. So wherever we're at in the current filter context, so if we're at the year level, then I want to go back to 2013, right? So in order to do that, we want to go to use our function same period last year. So wherever we're at in the current filter context, we want to go back to the same period last year. But it's important to remember that as we get down into the next level, so as I expand down into 2013, so as we look at the next level, so at the quarter level, if I'm here at the quarter level, I need to make sure that I grab the last date with inside of this quarter. Or if I'm at the month, I need to grab the last day of the month. And so we're going to use a combination of functions here. So we want to grab the last date within the current filter context. So in this case, we're looking at quarter 3, or if we're looking at 2014, same thing. So the current filter context as we expand into 2014 would change, right? So this current filter context, quarter 3 of 2014. So when it progresses into quarter 3, we want to drop off quarter 3 in the previous year. So we need to make sure we grab the last date of whatever filter context we're at. So if you try to write this backwards, it makes more sense. In my opinion, I want to grab, so let's go back into our measure here, the last date. Okay, so the last date of the current filter context. So we're just going to say the date table, date column, right? That's where our dates are located always. So last date. Then I want to use the function same period last year. Okay, So wherever I'm at in the current filter context, whether I'm at the quarter level, the month level, or the day level, go to the same period last year. Now, there's two ways that we can do this. We need to move forward one day, right? If we look at today's date a year ago, that's 366 days, so we need to progress forward one day. You can add a +1 here, that will work, or you can also use the NEXTDAY function. So NEXTDAY will progress it forward one day here. Looks like our IntelliSense worked just nicely there for us. Now, we need to know what our end date is. Well, our end date is wherever we're at in the current filter context. So we're going to create another variable. And we're going to call it the end day. Now, this one is just going to be the last date in our current filter context. So always the date table, date column. Now, when you're using variables, you always have to use the return function to activate the variables. So now our variables are activated and we can use them in a calculation. So because we're going to be changing the filter context, so as we're looking at quarter 3, we're looking all the way back to quarter 4 of 2013, we can't just look at whatever the current filter context is. We have to modify it. So we're going to use that calculate function to modify the filter context here. And this is a rolling 12-month profit measure. So once again, as it asks for the expression, that is our total profit measure. Now, the important part. So we wanted to find the total profit, but we want to calculate it between a specific time period, right? We want that time period to change, so as it's looking at different filter contexts, it'll look back 365 days. And so in order to do this, we're going to use the dates between function. So the dates between function allows us to return the dates that we specifically want. Now, once again, this is a time intelligence function. It's asking where are your dates located, always the date table, date column. Then it's going to say, okay, what's our start date? Our start date in this case is going to be our start day variable. And our end date is going to be our end day variable. So the purpose of variables here is to allow us to clean up our code, so that we can read this function a lot easier, calculate the profit between the dates, between the start date and the end day, and it allows you to easily modify the code up here to change your variables. Now, these are located individually within inside of a measure, so you can't use a variable from one measure in another, so you have to create a new variable every time you create a new measure. So just be aware of that. All right, so let's go ahead and return this here. And we'll go ahead and format it as a currency. And as always, we have to add this to the visual in order to see it. All right, so let's take a look here. All right, so as we start off in 2013, okay, so we can see we're starting off here in 2013. The profit is going to be 5 million. Now, it is additive. So the rolling 12 month is additive. So notice here as we add the next quarter, it's adding it to the total. Now, where this changes is as it gets into quarter 1 of 2014, it's going to drop off quarter one of 2013. And so the value comes from these three plus this one. And that's where this value comes from, because it's dropping off quarter one, because quarter one from 2014 is now included in the filter context. And so that's how it works as it iterates down to the next level. So let's say as it gets down to quarter two of 2014, it's going to drop off quarter two of 2013, and then you're going to get these two values plus these two values to get the 24 million. I want to thank you so much for joining me in this series, and make sure you give this video a thumbs up and like and subscribe to my channel for more content. I think I'm going to do a Power Apps tutorial and get back into Power Apps. They're a lot of fun, so check out the Power Apps series coming up soon. And I'll see you in the next one.